So what if this weren't the case? What if in 6 months you could dramatically decrease your stress levels using some of the tools that you are learning here? If any of you went to the wellness management class yesterday, the 8-hour course, you got a whole toolkit at your disposal, right? And I use this 6-month frontier because that's what happened to me. In 6 months, my life had completely and forever changed. So imagine that in 6 months you wake up, and so we're going to use kind of a visioning process, the power of visualization. So this works best if you imagine that you wake up in 6 months and your stress levels are dramatically decreased. What's different? Did you sleep throughout a night? You got 8 hours of sleep for the first time? Were you able to sit and read that book? Were you able to spend time with your family and actually be attentive to them? What's different? And we do this visioning process because if we have a vision for what's possible, we're excited about it, we're much more likely to use the tools at our disposal to move in the direction of that vision. Does that make sense? One of my early mentors said, pain pushes until vision pulls. Doesn't it feel like when you're locked in days, weeks, months of stress and your shoulders are tense like this and your back is achy and you haven't slept well, that you're just being pushed from one painful thing to another, like a pinball in a pinball machine? But if we have a compelling vision for the life that we are creating and we're focused on that, it can literally pull us through these painful times. So if you have a notebook or you're taking notes, I encourage you to jot a couple of sentences down on this compelling vision, a possibility. So we've talked about why it matters to you. We've talked about your compelling vision for the future. Now, let's talk about getting there. So I said there's 7 simple yet powerful steps to boosting your level of resilience. We're going to get through them right now. The first step works with this phenomenon. We are so focused on where we're going, future expectation, spun up. We got our face in our smartphones, we got our agendas on the mind, and we're racing to get there. We're a room of type A go-getters, right? Yeah, type A. And often we're doing this steeped in past conditioning. So we're being pulled into the future, steeped in this past conditioning, and we're never actually here now. And there's been a lot of talk about mindfulness and being present and presence, and some of it sounds a little woo-woo, a little airy-fairy, especially to a room of public safety dispatchers, type A types. But hear me out. Hear me out. To know whether you're being pulled into or sucked into the future, steeped in past conditioning, a good question to ask yourself is, when the stressful moments happen in your day, do you react or do you respond? Do you think that I expected to get citizen complaints, 3 of them, and make my life more difficult? Or did I react? Or did I respond? Did my pain points get triggered? Someone pushed my buttons and then I reacted? Or did I respond? Did I have the space to respond? Often our habitual reactions are just these thought loops, right? It's kind of like living Groundhog Day. Ever feel that way? Like after a 12, 14-hour shift, you collapse on the pillow and you think about tomorrow. And you're like, oh my God, I got to do that again? React or respond. So we need to increase space. And one of the best ways that I know how to do that brings us to the first step. And you already got a preview because the slide advanced. And it is to breathe. Now this seems overly simplistic. And in fact, I say to a room of dispatchers, just breathe. They're like, breathe? That's all you got? Well, hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. When you're sitting at your console, and you're going to notice this when you go back to work, whenever that is, and you've been stressed for a long period of time, You're kind of sitting like this. Your shoulders are rolled forward. You're typing like this, kind of like Tyrannosaurus Rex. And you're taking little sips of air into your upper chest. We call this thoracic breathing or stressed breathing. We're not oxygenating the blood. We're not moving energy through the body. We become very stagnant. And those tension patterns, you know what I'm talking about, those tension patterns in your jaw, in your neck, they happen from years of being like this. So just identifying the proper way to breathe, which is drawing breath into your lower belly, using your diaphragm or diaphragmatic breathing. Research has found that just 3 breaths into the lower belly is enough to turn off the stress response, to decrease cortisol production, decrease resting heart rate, because it decreases adrenaline production as well, and turn on the relaxation response. So you can do this right now if you put your feet on the ground and you square up in your chair and take 3 deep breaths, meaning deep in the lower belly. Your abdomen will inflate if you're doing it right and deflate. So once we've determined how to breathe correctly, we need to make a practice out of it. And what I'm talking about is your own personal breathing practice. You can call this meditation. You can call this contemplation if you're in the Christian tradition. But really, I say it's about creating time for you to just sit and be still. So, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to invite you in a brief guided breathing session so you can understand the power of this practice. And I'm even going to invite you, because we're in the room of our friends, to close your eyes for just a few moments. And it's okay, even if you fall asleep, as long as you can hear my voice, this stuff works. So as your eyes close gently, feel your feet on the ground. Put your hands about mid-thigh, palms down. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders. Take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And then begin to breathe in and out of your nose. And on the next out breath, see if you can allow your body to relax even further. Completely relax the body, surrendering the weight of your body to the support of the chair beneath you. And we're going to do this for the next 2 hours. Just kidding. Just a few minutes. And see how closely you can be with the breath right there at the tip of your nose. Feel the coolness of the in-breath. Feel the warmth of the out-breath. You might notice that your breath is longer on the in-breath. Just notice. And as you breathe, notice where you're holding on to tension. Where do you usually hold on to tension? In your jaw, in your shoulders, in your hands, wrists. Just notice where this tightness or density is in your body. And if you find an area of tension, use the next out breath to just relax. And when your mind wanders, just notice these thoughts, notice the agendas, notice the insanity, and then just come back to the feeling of the breath right there at the tip of your nose. And it doesn't matter if your mind wanders 50 or 100 times. Just keep coming back. That's the practice. Every time you come back to the feeling of the breath, to releasing tension, you're coming back to the present moment, which is really a moment between thoughts. Just see if you can rest in that space between thoughts, however short it is. On the next in-breath, see if you can consciously draw that breath into your lower belly. Notice your abdomen inflate on the in-breath and deflate on the out-breath. And now just take a couple more deep breaths, breathing in fully and completely, filling your lungs with air. And then as you exhale, release any and all last bits of tension that you might be holding on to. And after a few of these deep grounding breaths, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and bring your session to a close. So that was like 3-4 minutes. Anyone have tough time sitting still for even that amount of time? It's okay, put your hand up high. We're all there with you. I hear a lot of people say, I would love to do that, but I could never shut my mind off. I could never sit still. Well, that's actually what we're facing when we're trying to sit still for any amount of time. This practice is transformative. It was this very practice that for 6 straight weeks I did. I started to see my life with x-ray goggles. I started to see how I was blaming everybody else for my problems. And seeing the power of this practice, I had to share it with my fellow 911 coworkers. And others came through my stress reduction program at 911. It ran for a year and a half. 100 of my coworkers came through it. And they also reported stories like one dispatcher said, my daughter said, Mom, you look so much happier just by taking time for herself, 5 to 10 minutes to do this exact practice. She started to smile more, see opportunities to prioritize her own self-care. So this is the starting point, because if the overactive stress response is the problem and our tension patterns are spilling out into the world, we need to hit the pause button and create some space.